عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أخي كريم, it's the time for the khutbah, not for the telephone now. It's Jummah. The believer in Islam, the real believer, the one who the Prophet came sallallahu alaihi wasallam to develop each and every one of us, to make us the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. As an individual who has to have many characteristics inculcated within him. If he wants to give advice to someone, he has to have hikmah and don't do it in a way where he goes overboard, he's too rough, he's too tough. If someone gives him advice, he can't go into a shell and reject the advice and not look at what he's doing to cause the advice to come. The believer has to be clean. He has to be truthful. Many characteristics. The Prophet mentions sallallahu alaihi wasallam in husn Islam and mar tarku ma la ya'nihi. From a person's good Islam, being a good Muslim, is leaving alone that which does not concern him. So the believer is the one who minds his own business, because there's not a single person here except that he has more than enough of his own personal affairs that he doesn't have time to worry about fulan and alan and what their problems are. You got too much going on in your own life. So there are many characteristics of the believer. The Muslim man and woman should have modesty. They should have respect for others, self-respect. They should know how to love. They should be gentle. The Muslim man, the Muslim woman are people who there are a lot of characteristics. Can't be ignorant. Has to be a person who, although he may not give the khutbah, he may not lead the salat for the Taraweeh, but he's not so ignorant that he doesn't know his ankle bone from his elbow if you asked him in the religion. Many characteristics. The characteristic that I want to talk about today, inshallah, is a characteristic that is vital and important. For a person to be void of this characteristic, he's an ugly individual. And I don't mean physically ugly. He's not the specimen that exemplifies and shows and manifests what Islam is saying. And that is the characteristic that Islam tells us to be strong. To be strong. Even though he's sitting in a chair, because like myself, he's getting older, he's in his 60s, mid-60s, maybe pushing 70s, still Islam wants you to be strong, physically strong, and also to be an individual who has the wherewithal to realize the Muslim is not a passive participant. He's not a punk, he's not a chump. He has principles that he stands on, and he stands for, and he lives for. And even though he may be praying, sitting in a chair, you can't come and chump him off like that. He's going to take a stance while sitting down, and he's going to say something in defense of himself. The Muslim has to be strong. There are many ayat of the Quran, many hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that point to this fact. It leaves no doubt in the mind of the individual who has an iota of intelligence. From them is what Allah Ta'ala mentioned to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to his companions radwanullahi alaihim ajma'in, and to everyone from amongst us when he said, وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. Allah told the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Muhammad, you and your companions, you're dealing with Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl and these non-Muslims, so therefore prepare whatever you can prepare yourselves in your army. Prepare yourselves and be strong with the horses that you're going to use and the things that you're going to use in war, so that you can strike fear in the heart of Allah's enemies and your enemies. The ayat is not encouraging the Muslim on the battlefield to go and he's meek and weak and apologetic. He doesn't even have to be on the battlefield today. The Imam of the Muslims, Muslim men, we want to hide our Islamic identity. The Muslim woman, she wants to hide her identity. There's no battlefield, but she doesn't want to wear hijab. Her husband doesn't tell her, you got to wear hijab. No battlefield. We just, right off the bat, apologetic, and with people on the defensive. Sometimes it's okay to be on the defensive, but we're not going to go off into that. I just want to show you these ayat that indicate strength in Islam is something that is marghubun fi, is desirable. Allah told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya ayyuhan nabi, jahid al-kuffar wal-munafiqeen, waghluz alayhim. O Prophet, fight against these non-Muslims and fight against the hypocrites, waghluz alayhim, and be strong with them, deal with them, so that when you deal with them, they know you are not someone to be played with. Although Allah described them in many ayat, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ, I have not sent you except as a rahmah. A rahmah. You have to be strong, but you have to have rahmah on your mother. You have to be strong, but you have to have rahmah on your baby. You have to be strong, but you still have to be loving and affectionate and have rahmah upon your wife. But in the Maidan, and what this ayat is talking about, you're dealing with hypocrites who want to destroy the deen. You're dealing with non-Muslims who want to destroy your deen. Be tough with them and deal with them. From those ayat is what Allah commanded his Nabi with. Yahya, Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitab biquwwatin. O Yahya, the Nabi, Yahya, the son of Zakaria, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhima. Ya Yahya, take this book with strength. If Yahya was told to take the Psalms, the Zabur with strength, then you and I have been commanded to take this Quran with strength. Read that Quran, learn that Quran, practice the Quran, give dawah to the Quran. Don't let the Quran just collect dust, not just in your masjid, but in your house. The Mus'haf in the life of the Muslim, in the life of this ummah, except the one that Allah has rahmah upon, the Quran in our lives, you just take it making dust. This is the month of the Quran. And this is the time, okay? It's not like last month or 6 months ago. This is the month that you have to take that Quran off of that thing and wipe that dust off and start giving more attention to that Quran. That's what he commanded Yahya to do. He just told us that just so that we can reflect on Yahya. Salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi. Nah, that was mentioned to Yahya also as an example for us. Allah Ta'ala told Bani Israel, and again he mentioned this to them for us, خُذُوا مَا آتَيْتُكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ. Take, Bani Israel, what I have given you, and take it with strength. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to tell his companions that there's going to be a lot of ikhtilaf. So be careful and take my sunnah. Alaykum bis sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin al-mahdiyyin min ba'di. Abdu alayha bin nawajid. He said, when you live in 2026, there's going to be a lot of ikhtilaf. Do we start fasting on Wednesday or Thursday? There's a way to have ikhtilaf in that issue, and it doesn't warrant all of this fighting. This one is saying Dajjal is real, that one is saying Dajjal is not real. So much ikhtilaf that people are involved in. Rasulullah prophesies this is going to come, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, when that happens, take my sunnah and follow my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided khurafa. And he said, hold on to it with your molars. Break down on it. He didn't say put it in your pocket. He didn't say hang it up over there on the cabinet, on the hanger. He said hold on to it with your molars. Because if there's any part of the body that a person is going to be able to apply pressure, he can apply pressure by putting something here under his arm. He could apply pressure by grabbing it with his hands. He could put something between his knees, but he's not going to put pressure on anything the way he can when he bites down on his molars. Don't play with your religion. Don't play with your religion. In Jahiliyyah, before Islam, we used to say, and I still say it right now because I grew up with this saying, and I mean it. When someone is giving me a hard time, I always tell them, you better play with something a lot less dangerous. Because I don't play games like that. I don't play games, this stuff that you, playing with my religion, talking about my mother, talking about my wife, talking about my sister, talking about my daughter. You better play with something, go get a toy and play with something a lot less dangerous. Because you're getting ready to get a problem right now. So the point here is, ayat upon ayat, telling Muslim men, you have to be strong. You have to stand up for your religion. We don't have to tap dance and apologize for being Muslims. As soon as something happens in the dunya today, and I understand the reality of Islamophobia and the media, I understand all of that, I understand that. But why is it every time something happens, the imam has to come out and say, it wasn't us, and if it turns out to be a Muslim, I gotta apologize for that. I don't have anything to do with the decision that that person made to do that. I can say, I'm free of that, and that's not from my religion. But why have to apologize? When a white man does something, when a white boy does something, when a racist, fascist does something, they never condemn Christianity, and they never apologize. But we have to apologize? I ain't apologizing for nothing as the imam. But if the situation presented itself, it's responsible of me to say, Islam is free of that. Islam doesn't kill people indiscriminately. Islam doesn't allow that. But at the same time, you people did this, that. We're going to point it out and call it as it is. So these ayat and these ahadith, they're teaching us, Ya Abdullah, Ya Amatullah. The Muslim has to be strong. And that's why the Islamic identity is important. That's why these little kids right there, at a young age, this is not a joke. It's my job as a father. It's my job as an imam. It's my job, it's your job, that we take this religion and we're strong with it. We don't cherry pick like the ayah said. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kaffata wa la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. All you who believe, men and women, black and white, Arab and non-Arab, rich and poor, Trinidadian, Guyanese, African American, revert, born and raised in Islam. All you who believe, all of you, all of us, enter into al-Islam wholeheartedly. And don't follow the footsteps of a shaitan. Verily, shaitan is a clear, open enemy of yours. So, the hijab, it's kind of heavy on me, heavy on my wife. You have to wear hijab. And if my wife doesn't wear hijab, I'm going to be partly responsible. I'm not up here trying to beat you in your head. What I'm trying to say to everybody here is, there's not a single person here, except there are aspects of our existence that we find it difficult to practice. This one smokes cigarettes, that one misses prayer left, right, and center, that one is a liar, this one over here is greedy, that one over, and on and on. And no one exempt from that. كل بني آدم خطاؤون وخير خطائين التوابون. All of Adam's children make mistakes. And the best of them who make mistakes are the ones who make tawbah. Now we're in this season of rectifying ourselves. We're in this season that is built specifically for cleaning ourselves up if we give ourselves to it the right way. Giving ourselves to it the right way means don't be of the people the Prophet describes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are those people who they get nothing out of their fast except they make themselves hungry and they make themselves thirsty. That mobile phone, it is a shaitan. It is a devil, and it will compromise your fast. But that's the reality of the situation. We're in the season where a person has to be strong enough and disciplined enough to modify how he's using that phone. He has to do it. What did Allah say about the Kuffar of Quraysh? The Kuffar of Quraysh were in Mecca, al-Mukarram, the best place on the face of the earth. They had control of the Kaaba. They were making tawaf and doing their thing at Safa and Marwa. They were there. Allah said about them, مَا كَانَ صَلَاتُهُمْ عِنْدَ الْبَيْتِ إِلَّا مُكَاءٌ وَتَصْدِيَةٌ. When they were there making tawaf, Allah said their tawaf, their salat at the Kaaba was nothing but clapping hands and whistling. Like African American people, my mother, my aunties, who call themselves Christians. They have nothing to do with Isa ibn Maryam. Just like the Yahud of today have nothing to do with Musa, salawatullahi wasalam. Black people, white people, or Christians, they're not the Nasara of that Quran. The Yahud, the Zionists, all of them, they're not the Ahlul Kitab of the time of those people. But the point is, African American, my mother, my relatives, they get up on Sunday, they catch the Holy Ghost, they scream, they dance, they do it. That's nothing but clapping and whistling, because they're making shirk with Allah. Why did Allah tell us that? Because from the Muslims are those who their salat is nothing but clapping and whistling. Their fasting is nothing but making yourself hungry and thirsty. We have to enter into the religion wholeheartedly. And in entering the religion, the very first step of entering into this religion is having knowledge. I see a brother who appears to be a revert here. I tell you, my man, you better learn about your religion as opposed to just listening and looking at Muslims and saying, this is the religion. Yeah, the Muslims have good with them. But you're not going to learn Al-Islam by looking at the Muslims, because everybody's doing a different thing. Everybody's doing a different thing. That's not putting people down. That's the reality. That's the reality. So again, learning about the religion for all of you, it doesn't mean you have to get the Khutba. Doesn't mean you have to memorize the Quran. Doesn't mean you have to read Sahih Bukhari once every month. It means you have to learn enough about this religion to know, how should I keep my hair? How should I dress? How should I pray? How should I do this and do that? The lady said, Ya Rasulullah, I can't perform Hajj with you because of this and this and that. He said, no problem. When Ramadan comes, make Umrah in Ramadan and you get the reward of performing Hajj with me. So if anyone had the opportunity to go to Umrah this month, Ramadan, from the rewards of all of that is you'll get it written down that you made Hajj with the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If someone came in here and gave everybody a visa to make Umrah and said, go and make Umrah, you'll be hard pressed to find people who know what to do. You made Umrah, but you didn't make Umrah. It was nothing but whistling and clapping. I'm not putting anybody down and I'm not being sour grapes. I'm telling you the reality of the existence of our ummah. All of us have to get stronger. We have to do a better job. We have to do better in order to be people who are going to leave a legacy for ourselves with these kids. Allah told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, who were always outnumbered. Always outnumbered. The greatest battle in the history of the world is the Battle of Badr. The companions were 300, those people over 1,000, and the Muslims won. They didn't see those numbers, and you gotta not just think about the numbers. You gotta think about how society was. They used to look at Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, Umayr ibn Khalaf. Even I say today, after reading about the history of some of those Arab personalities, I don't know people from these kuffar who are living today who are similar to Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl in terms of rajula. I can't think of any man. Rich, white, I don't know any of these people. Those Arabs, they were some powerful personalities. So you can imagine the Muslims who were lesser in numbers, and these were the Ashraf of Quraysh, and they're getting ready to fight. The Muslims didn't lose the war before it even started. They said no, because these ayahs like this, Allah told them, subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Don't be people who are weak. You didn't even start your business yet. Somebody tell you you can't do it, man, get out of here telling me I can't do it. I know who my Lord is, so I know who I am. And as long as I know who my Lord, nobody's going to tell me as an African American he's better than me. Nobody. Nobody. Just because he's an Arab or from this group or that group. No way in the world. Why? Because I know who Allah is. I know who Allah is, that He's the Khaliq. I know that Allah is Al-Qawi. I know that Allah is Al-Azim. You better go and find somebody else who you can do that with. يُرِيدُونَ أَن يُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ. Some of these people think, non-Muslims, they can just come to us and do like this. Blow on you. And there are those people who just blow in the wind. But the people have in their religion a thabat. They know their religion. They know nothing can help me, nothing can harm me, except what Allah wrote for me. You can't tell me what I can't do. So the point here, Ummatul Islam, my brothers and my sisters, we have to be people who are strong in our religion. Strong in the religion, again, you have to understand what I'm saying. Strong doesn't mean you don't smile. Strong doesn't mean you're antisocial. Strong doesn't mean you're beating up your wife, you're rough with your kids. The Bedouin from the Arabs, he came to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I see you kissing your grandkids. He said, I have 10 children. I don't kiss any of them. The Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I can't help it if Allah took rahmah out of your chest. Strong doesn't mean never crying. Umar ibn al-Khattab, if you ask the average youngster, which companion do you like to be the most like, resemble the most? Many people say Umar, and I understand why. Although Abu Bakr is better than Umar. Although Abu Bakr is better than Umar. The only human beings that are better than Abu Bakr as-Siddiq are the prophets and the messengers. And then Abu Bakr and Umar. Why do they say Umar? Why do they say Khalid ibn Walid? Because those people were strong. The Prophet said about Umar sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لو سلك عمر مسلكا وسلك الشيطان لسلك الشيطان مسلكا غير مسلكه. If Umar went down the street, Shaitan came down it, Shaitan would choose another street. Not because of Umar's muscles. He was taking creatine and steroids and lifting weights and running. No. It was because of the quwwah of his deen, his power and his religion. That man stood up and said what he had to say. He said what he said and he meant what he said. Not like the people today. The guy is a bull which hanging. One face he comes to you with that day, and another face he comes over here. When he's with the Muslims, when it's Ramadan, that face. Outside of Ramadan, it's another face. No. We have to be on the same program. Listen to the kalam of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is from what he was given that no other prophet was given. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. That is, Jawami al-Kalim. The ability to say a few things, but they have far-reaching implications. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف. The strong believer, physically strong, is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. And in both of them is good. Why is the physically strong believer better? Why? Because he can work and he can pay zakat and sadaqah. خيركم أنفعكم للناس. The best person here is the one who brings benefit to others, not the one who's always sitting down and the food comes to him at iftar. The food comes to him. Another guy makes the adhan. Another person makes the iqam. Another person, he does the salah. And he just sits down. Now, the best person here is the one who he brings benefit to others. The more strength he has, the more he's in a position to defend his wife, to defend his honor, and not to always hate it in his heart and to turn the other cheek. Well, what are you, Martin Luther King? Turn the other cheek all the time? Ain't turning no cheek today. Not today, because it's just you and me. I'm going to stand here 10 toes down and put some fire on you because of what you did. And under the law, it's my right to do that. You disrespecting me like that? So, Ummatul Islam, what's the point here? Point here is being strong in your religion, man. We have fasted 10 days of Ramadan, those of us who are fasting. We have proven to ourselves, once again, we have the ability to be better Muslims. Allah's Allah outside of Ramadan. Allah's Allah inside of Ramadan. We have proven that we get up before Fajr. We're praying. Yeah, some prayers we miss because we always miss prayer outside of Ramadan. But in the month of Ramadan, we're doing a better job. Why? Because you have the ability. Now the question is, what do I do in order to have, consistency and persistency? All you got to do is follow the religion. All we have to do is follow the religion. And you become strong automatically, just following it like we're doing right now. Have we existed in Ramadan without any mistakes? No. No. We're going to make mistakes, knowingly and unknowingly. There are people who have girlfriends outside of Ramadan, and they have them in Ramadan. Will Allah reject his Ramadan? That's up to Allah. I can't speak for that. I can't put my foot in that arena. Allah forgives who he wants to forgive, and Allah has mercy on who wants to have mercy upon. The shahid from the Quran is, we're not perfect. Smoking in Ramadan. This is the time to quit smoking. I remember when I first became a Muslim, and I used to look at the Muslims who would smoke as soon as Maghrib come, and I used to have this thing, not being judgmental, I found it gharib, ajib. Why you gotta go to smoking cigarette right away as soon as you break your fast? Because of that nicotine is a drug. He can't help it. So we asked Allah Ta'ala to help him with that. Just like everybody else got another issue. He talks too much. He's looking at his phone. This one is still mean to his wife. That one over there, she ain't wearing hijab at all. That one over there, he hasn't paid the people their money back. The person will come Yawm al-Qiyamah and you have all these good deeds, Ramadan, Taraweeh, all this stuff like that, the size of the mountain of Tihama. But he punched that one. He did this one to that one. He said bad things about that one. He stole his money. He took a loan from him and him and him. And they doing all this bad thing. So Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to want his Ramadan. And it's going to be saying, nah, man, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. You used to live in that man's house. And you didn't pay him 3-4 months rent. And then you left his house and you still didn't give him his money. And you talking about fasting Ramadan. You're making yourself hungry and thirsty. So your Ramadan, fasting, Taraweeh, all of that, zakat, sadaqah, will be given to those people. Who in his right mind from amongst us? Who? I'm a professional. I go to get my money the end of the week, the end of the month, and the guy tells me we're going to keep a third of your money. We're going to keep a half of your check. We're going to keep all of your check. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stand up right there in front of that mudir, that manager, that boss, and I'm going to tip that table over and say, what? You're not giving me my money? And I'm going to take my money from that man. in my dunya. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثْلُ الْأَعْلَى. It's even more severe and more serious coming Yawm al-Qiyamah, with all of these efforts, and the good deeds and efforts that you're doing are just going to be given away. So beware of being the person who makes ghiba. Beware of the person who doesn't have love for the Muslim. He doesn't like another Muslim, and if you ask him why, what's your problem? What's your problem? It's something from his hawa. And he's fasting in the month of Ramadan. That's why Ummah al-Islam, those Arabs during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they came with a religion that was revolutionary, and they turned everything upside down. Everything. And their deen spread out through the Arabian Peninsula. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had the correct aqidah, and they had the correct Islam. Not that Islam of my hizb. If you're not with my group, I don't like you. If you're not my color, I don't like you. No, it wasn't like that. So Allah gave to those companions, radiyallahu anhum, that which He will give to us if and when our Islam resembles their Islam. Our Islam resembles their Islam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ونسأل الله تعالى التوفيق والسداد. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا وطيبا مباركا فيه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I want to encourage you, brothers, for what remains of Ramadan, the first third is over. We have 2 more thirds to go, inshallah. I want to encourage all of you to do a better job in the upcoming days concerning the Taraweeh. No doubt Taraweeh is not wajib. It's not wajib. But a real Ramadan, the real Sawm of Ramadan, is the person who's listening to the Quran more. A person giving sadaqah more. Abdullah ibn Abbas said that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam kana ajwad al-nas. He was the most generous person. And he became more generous in Ramadan. You have to give more money in Ramadan. You have to read the Quran more in Ramadan. You have to pray more in Ramadan. Now it's not wajib. And we find all these reasons. After you eat maghrib, you get, lethargic. Khumul, you get lethargic. Kaslan, lazy. I'm out, I'm bouncing, I'm going to go to the crib, and I just said, I pray maybe 2 rakats. No, I'm not saying that the Taraweeh is wajib. I'm saying be strong. And there's another thing I have to bring to your attention. I remember one of the first khutbas that I gave this masjid, probably the first khutbah, was the importance of the prayer. And the way we look at the prayer and the salaf of this ummah, radwanullah alayhi. I want to remind you of something. One of the greatest benefits of Ramadan and Taraweeh is that Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Nabi says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna awwala ma yuhasib alayhi al-abdu min a'malihi Yawm al-Qiyamah salatuhu. The very first thing that Allah is going to ask you about Yawm al-Qiyamah, when you're standing before Him barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised, and nobody's going to be looking at anybody else's nakedness. No man will look at a woman, no woman will look at a man. You won't be worrying about other people looking at your wife and your daughters, because it's serious. When our mother Aisha heard that, being a Muslim woman who knows the importance of covering, she said, Ya Rasulullah, even the women are going to be naked. He said, even the women are going to be naked, Ya Humaira bint Sadiq. But the people won't be thinking about that. That's how serious the day is. Allah's going to ask you, how did you pray? The mechanics. When did you pray? How many did you lose, and how many did you miss? How many times was your mind there? But this is the point, Taraweeh. This hadith said, if the person made the salat, it will have a knock-on effect, and all of his deeds will be good. And if the person didn't make the salat, it's going to reflect in the other aspects of his life. Allah will say to the malaika, look at my slave, and look at his prayer. If his prayer was complete, write it down as being complete. If his prayer was deficient, He didn't make it right. He missed it. He missed that. Allah said, we'll say to the angel, look at his nawafil prayers. Look at his nawafil prayers. The nawafil prayer, when you come into the masjid, you pray 2 rakats. When you make wudu, you pray 2 rakats. Al-istikhara. All of the prayers that a person makes that are not wajib, the more he makes, is going to help those prayers that he missed. You show me a masjid where it's equal. Because I know the reality in most masjids, almost most of the people who were born and raised Muslims, there was a time when they were not praying. And prayer was wajib upon them. They weren't 7 years old, 10 years old. They were 13, 14, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40. And he wasn't praying. And then he had an epiphany or something happened. And he came to his mind and he started praying. And he's praying now. But when he was 16, 17, he's going to be questioned about those prayers that he missed. How can you make them up? You can't make them up by praying, trying to make them up. Once the prayer goes out and you missed it intentionally, that's it. It's done. It's done. Unless you're sleeping or you forgot. But you can't just leave the prayer and make it up. Plus, you can never compute. How many did you miss? The way you solve that problem, you come to the Taraweeh. You make the Taraweeh as much. All right, I'm tired. Okay, you're tired. Don't go home. Sit down and pray. But I'm not sick. You don't have to be sick. The wajib prayer or the sunnah prayer, the nawafil, you can do in the sunnah prayers what you can't do in the wajib prayer. In the wajib prayer, you got to stand up if you can. But in the sunnah prayer, you can ride your horse. And you don't even have to face the qibla, as the Prophet showed. The important thing is make up those prayers. Make up those prayers. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to stop here. I'm saying to you, I want to be a voice of reason in your heads and in your hearts. This thing is real. This thing is real. In terms of being strong, I want the shuyukh here, the older men, the older women. Don't fast if you don't have to fast. We're not talking about that kind of strong. When Allah mentioned those ayats of fasting, the ayats of fasting, He said after them, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah wants for you ease. He doesn't want to make things difficult for you. Your kidney, you got dialysis, you're real sick, diabetic, and all that. You got to talk to your doctor. Don't be trying to fast and throw the dice. Let me just see how I feel. The woman who's pregnant, the woman who's suckling, even if she's pregnant the first month, she doesn't have to fast. She spends the fidya. For every day she doesn't fast, as Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar used to give the fatwa. A woman who is pregnant and a woman who she's feeding a baby, they just fidya. They don't have to fast again and do the fidya. So I'm not talking about you guys when I say be strong. I'm saying you be strong by still coming to the masjid if it's easy for you, and sit in the chairs and give zakat and sadaqah and make a dhikr and things like that. May Allah Ta'ala establish our feet firmly upon the kitab and the sunnah, and may Allah Ta'ala give us the barakah and make us those people who accept the barakah of the Quran in the month of Ramadan, outside the month of Ramadan, and may Allah Azza wa Jal make it easy for us to be of the people who are successful in this religion. Aqimus salat. Yarhamukumullah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله